Hello guys and welcome to my channel. In this video I'll show you how I paint my Blood Ravens Spacemarines. I'll be painting this heavy intercessor for my kill team. With the mini primed black, we can begin by painting all the armor with Mephiston red. At this point, I realized I hadn't drilled the barrel of the gun, so I'm doing it now, but you should do this before priming. Once the base red is done with multiple thin layers, it's time to grab Rhinox hide and paint all the shadows. Once that's done, mix the two colors about 50/50ths and apply it where the two colors meet to create a three-step gradient. Now, it's all about thinning the paints a lot, going back and forth, and blending the colors together to create a smooth gradient. Next, we move on to the highlights. I'm using Evil Sun's Scarlet for this. Paint only the areas facing the light from the waist up, adding a little to the knees and shoe tips, and paint most of the edges. When done, it should look something like this. After fixing the black areas with Abaddon black and diluting the paint to fill all the little lines in the armor, we can move on to the next step, the shoulder pads. I started by painting the shadows with Steel Legion drab, but for some reason, this part didn't record. Now I'm painting the rest of the shoulder pad with Xandri dust, again mixing the two colors about 50/50ths to create a smooth transition between them, just like with the armor. I'm diluting the paints and blending them together. After that, I bring in deck tan and paint a final highlight on the very top of both shoulders. I like to stipple and paint some scratches to create texture. I paint the oath the same way. Now, let's move on to the aquila. I add a little Gehenna's gold to Abaddon black and carefully paint over the entire aquila. Then I add more Gehenna's gold to the mix and paint about 70% of the area. Next, I go with pure Gehenna's gold, painting about half of the previous area. The final highlight will be Liberator gold. I paint the tips of the wings, top of the skull in the center, most of the edges, and the very tips of the feathers. This is how it should look. Next step, the gun. I'm going with hazard stripes for this one. First, I sketch where the stripes will be with deck tan and then painting the stripes with Vallejo sun yellow. Then, I mix the sun yellow with parasite brown and paint the shadows and blending the colors together. The final edge highlight will be a mix of sun yellow and ice yellow. After fixing the black areas and adding some damage to the yellow, it should look like this. Now, I'm highlighting all the black areas by gradually adding green-gray to the Abaddon black, with the final edge highlight being pure green-gray. I do the same for the shoulder trims and the right knee, representing the third company as seen in Dawn of War. Let's work on the rest of the metal parts. I start with a little bit of a Runelord brass mixed with a Baden black as the base color for these parts. Then, I add more Runelord brass for the first highlight, painting about half of the area. The final highlight is pure Runelord brass, painting only where the light hits the surface. I use the same technique for this little piece that looks like chamber and the bullets, but here, I'm using Warlock bronze, followed by brass scorpion and skull crusher brass for the final highlight. For these two skulls I then use lead belcher and stormhost silver. Now, the last thing to do before we focus on the details, the pouches. I start with Rhinox hide, adding a little bit of a parasite brown. I then add more parasite brown to the mix and paint some scratches. And finally adding deck tan to the mix for the edges. Now is time for the last few details, like the black joints in the armor. I mix some gray or blue with the black and almost dry brush the notches. For the eyes, I paint the front of the eyes with white and then glaze them with very diluted moot green. I also paint the edges around the eyes to make them look like they are shining. I do the same for the little bulb on the bolter, paint it white, then glaze it blue, painting around it for some OSL. And finally, painting the oath. I like to paint 2 or 3 initials in red and then fill in the rest with lines of text. For this, I use a 0.05 Centripen. I did the decals and base off camera. And with that, the Space Marine is complete. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions or tips for me, and let me know what you think of the paint job overall. Thanks for watching. See you in another painting video sometime.